A new season of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Europe is set to get underway. We're at Imola for the opening round of the championship, the first of 2 races over the course of this weekend. It is a 50-minute race, mandatory pit stop window in the middle 10 minutes of the race, with differing pit stop times if you are a solo entry or a double driver entry. It's longer if you drive on your own because you have a bit of an advantage. You've already been in the car and you know what it, and indeed the circuit, is like. The grid then is based on the time set this morning in qualifying. The cars taking formation now on that grid, ready for the rolling start. David Anderson trackside, Gemma Scott down on the grid, and on pole position, Loris Spinelli, as the countdown continues with the car that Loris shares with Max Weering. They were put together at the end of last season when Max was fighting for the championship. It didn't work in his favour, but he is back this year with Loris Spinelli, and they are certainly potential race winners. That said, there are quite a lot of them. Let's hear from the boss, though, of Lamborghini Motorsport, because Giorgio Sana is on the grid, ready to talk to Gemma.
Giorgio, another full grid this year, 36 cars, I believe, and the first time racing in the Evo 2.
Yes, absolutely. We are very happy about this grid. 36 cars with the new Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2 is the first race for the new model. That, by the way, will debut also in Laguna Seca in a couple of weeks in the American Championship. So we expect a very challenging race as usual. We are really proud, let me say, to be here in Imola, that we consider our second home, of course, in Emilia-Romagna, together with Misano racetrack. So let's see. We are waiting for a tough race. I think it will be very nice to watch.
And of course, it's always been very competitive on this grid.
Absolutely. We have the debut of Dani Pedrosa this weekend. We are, let me say, very happy to have Dani with us. It will be the first race for him on the 4 wheels. We have a lot of new drivers coming in the pro category, young drivers that are part of the Young Drivers program. And of course, we have the Pro Am and the Am category with a lot of lineups, new, very nice.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Dani Pedrosa is on the grid, as you've just heard, and looking forward to seeing how he gets on over the course of these 2 races. The former 125cc world champion and 250cc double world champion as well, but runner-up in MotoGP in 07, in 2010, 2012. And he's, of course, not the only famous motorcycle racer here this weekend. Valentino Rossi taking part in another race at Imola this weekend. Milan Tikans back for another season, ready to go. Milan Tikans lining up on the outside of the front row of the grid. And a new co-driver for Milan Tikans for this year with Marzio Moretti in the pro class target racing entry. So the grid is just about formed. It will, of course, be a rolling start. Last year's winners drove for the Oregon team, and there is number 27, the car of Massimo Siglia, and the British driver Lewis Williamson, who we've seen in the GT Endurance Cup in the past, as well as single-seaters before that. Massimo Siglia was new to the championship last year and went well, got involved in 1 or 2 dramas in the World Finals, but a spectacular racer, and he came on apace over the course of the season. Now, I mentioned Dani Pedrosa is racing. He's down on the grid. And before we get racing underway, let's hear from him with Gemma.
Danny, this is your first car race.
Yes, my very first car race, and looking forward to it. I'm, still shaking a little bit. I hope everything goes right, and yeah, I hope to enjoy it.
How hard is the change from 2 wheels to 4?
Yeah, I mean, I know nothing about, so yeah, I have to learn a lot of the rules and how the driving style is. But well, so far it's okay.
Well, you certainly have a good coach here with Andrea Caldarelli, and we wish you luck.
That's true, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Now they're on the grid 78, which is the VS Racing entry. Emanuele Zonzini, due to go first. And 29, which is 5th on the grid, is the car that Dani Pedrosa shares with Antonin Borgo. It's run by the FFF racing team, so as Gemma's just made the point, benefiting from the advice of Andrea Caldarelli. Another of the Oregon entries. That's 27 again. We've seen it once, but it's fourth on the grid. It is third on the grid. Lewis Williamson at the wheel. The way the grid lines up, pole position on the left-hand side of the road. So their third is number 27. Fourth over its shoulder is number 78 of Zonzini. And the grid now starting to be cleared in anticipation of this first race of the season. 29, which is fifth on the grid. That's the car that Danny Pedrosa will drive, but he will do the second stint today. He'll do the first stint tomorrow. Antonin Borga is behind the wheel of it. He will go first in this race. And alongside is Stéphane Trubodini, the Frenchman who we've seen in GT4s and GT3s with Alpines and then Bentleys in recent seasons, and he now moves to Super Trofeo and the VS Racing team, Vincenzo Sospiri's team. Everybody gets the same base car, of course, the Huracan Evo 2, but different teams operate the cars to know how to get the best out of them. Number 89 is one of the solo entries from Imperiale Racing. This is the Spanish driver, Manuel Bejarano, and a driver new to Super Trofeo, and lining up alongside him from the Oregon team, it will be Lorenzo Pegoraro to go first. Pegoraro, another driver coming new to Super Trofeo this year, sharing with Enrico Bethera, familiar skull and crossbones on the Oregon colours. 91, next on the grid. This is going to be started by Pietro Parolini. He shares the car with Paolo Biglieri from the Bonaldi Motorsport stable. And then you get to number 9, again from the Target team. Starting driver there is Dimitri Gravatsova, back for a second season of Super Trofeo. 51 is Dan Wells to go first, the Brit based out in Asia, but this year driving for the FFF racing team with his regular co-driver Oscar Lee. And Dan Wells very, very quick, one to watch. Number 18 alongside is the Romanian driver David Mihai Serban. So another new driver and a different nationality represented on the grid. Next will be 21, another familiar face in Super Trofeo, Gabriel Rindoni, the Luxembourgish driver. And then number 13 to line up alongside is Stéphane Guérin. There is Gabriel Rindoni's car. And Gabriel Rindoni drives for the Lippert team, a squad doing double duty this weekend with a car in the GT World Challenge Europe. There is Stéphane Guérin, GT4 graduate, and that from the Arcadia Racing stable, a new team to Super Trofeo, the French team. Of course, perhaps inevitably, Super Trofeo has rather been dominated by Italian teams over the years, but different squads now coming to take part. 63 is from Auto Vitesse, the Lima brothers. Cedric Lima goes first. Cyril Lima takes over, the two Swiss. They've been loyal Lamborghini racers for a long, long time, going back to the early days of Super Trofeo. The door closes. 22 next on the grid there, you can see, is in the hands of Bronek Formanek to go first. So there, the grid formed. The Lamborghini Urus, as the leading car, will take them around on the formation lap, and then we will be in business then for 50 minutes of Super Trofeo action. Right, leading car moves away. And once that has got a little bit of distance between it and the pack, they will be released, ready for the rolling start. So the cars accelerate away. As ever, a great sight, a great sound that a grid full of Super Trofeo Lamborghinis make. So the cars work their way down to the Tamburello chicane, down onto the power, down to the Villeneuve chicane towards Tosa, and a chance to have a look further back down the grid as the drivers jink around to get the warmth into the Pirelli tyres. 5 races, 5 events I should say, supporting the GT World Challenge Europe, and then the final round for the European and the Asian and the North American Championships, all part of the Super Trofeo finals, which this year moves to a new venue for the cars, which is Portimao. So the Portuguese circuit on the first weekend of November plays host to the World Finals. So you have the final rounds of the regional championships, and then the weekend is given over to the World Final itself with a race each day. The classes remain as ever. You have the AMs, the Pro-Ams, the Pros, and the Lamborghini Cup for those that have done limited racing or are true AMs, true amateur drivers without, if you like, the career aim to progress. But one of them, Gerard van der Horst, keeps on coming back into the Lamborghini Cup and wins it quite regularly. So he starts as one of the favourites there, with Hans Fabry, who was a winner last season as well. Kevin Gilardoni and Leonardo Pulcini were the champions in the pro category last year. They have both moved on. Karel Bash and Andrzej Lewandowski were victorious in Pro-Am. They've moved on. Claude-Yves Gosselin was the winning Am. Well, he is back for another season with Marc Rostin. And Hans Fabry was last year's champion in the Lamborghini Cup, as he was the year before. So Hans Fabry looking to try and do 3 in a row. Gerard van der Horst has done that. 3 Lamborghini Cup titles back-to-back. Loris Spinelli, I've talked about already, starting on pole position. He was the Pro champion in 2017. He was the Pro-Am champion in 2018. 54 then, lining up alongside Milan Tikans. So the cars now make the way up to the end of the formation lap. So we'll go racing this time. And now the lights on the gantry will go red. We get set for the opening race of Super Trofeo Europe then. And as the cars now work their way up towards the timing line, the race director Alain Adon, if he's happy, will give the signal. The lights will change from red to green. We'll be in business. And the opening round of Lamborghini Super Trofeo Europe then will be underway. The drivers creep their way up towards the line, waiting for the lights to change, which they will do any moment. And when they do, we should be good to go. But yes, now the lights go green. It is blast off. And the best start made then by Loris Spinelli, who pounds away into the lead of the race, with Milan Tikans slotting in behind him then as the cars head into Tamburello for the first time. Lewis Williamson drops back 1 slot. Emanuele Zonzini, I think, goes 3rd then as the cars turn through for the first time. And so far, so good. Everybody safely through Tamburello, although out wide there gets squeezed number 87, which is the car of Jean-Francois Bruno. But Loris Spinelli, who knows Lamborghini's inside out, knows Super Trofeo inside out, the former single-seater gun, leads the way, then coming through the Villeneuve chicane. Challenge made for 2nd place, because there to the inside of Tikans goes Zonzini, and he's going to go through. Is he on the inside line? Yes, he is. So Emanuele Zonzini goes through now up into 2nd spot. But you can see the way that Spinelli is going, charging clear already as the cars make the climb up towards Pedrosa for the first time. The road plateaus, it turns, and then it plunges downhill once more. Number 14 there going through, the Oregon car of Lorenzo Pegoraro. Number 9 is Dimitri Gravatsova, also trying to push on as the cars come now to the Variante Alta for the first time. Still the high point of the circuit, this, and then the road drops away the other side. Cars bouncing through over the curb, some using more curb than others, but Spinelli leading at the moment then and building that gap over Emanuele Zonzini in second place. Zonzini, somebody that we've had racing in GTs for a number of seasons in the past. So another experienced campaigner as the cars now work their way up towards the end of the opening lap of the race. Number 55 on the attack, you saw there, the GT3 Poland car, Andrzej Lewandowski, coming into the championship as a soloist. So I said that he and Karol Vash have moved on. They have as a partnership, but Andrzej Lewandowski here on his own as the leaders go through to complete that one. Spinelli ahead of Zonzini, Tikens is third, Lewis Williamson is fourth, and 3 wide into Tamburello. Something's got to give, and it's Dan Wells that runs wide off the road and back on again, although out of all of that, Pegoraro lost places as well. Who was the beneficiary through all of that? Well, certainly wasn't Dan Wells, I'm afraid to say, because he was the one that got squeezed towards the gravel as the cars now come through the Villeneuve chicane. Needs to clean his tyres for a corner or two, and then Dan can push on again. He and Oscar Lee made a good partnership last season. Expect more of the same, especially now with the FFF racing team operating the car, Andrea Caldarelli's squad. On board with Antonin Borger, this is the car shared by Danny Pedrosa as Borger hustles on, drops downhill, heads toward Becco Minerali. So you turn in, use the curb on the outside, and then brake hard, turn right, slight left as you go over the brow and up towards the Variante Alta. At the end of the opening lap of the race, Antonin Borger was in 10th place. Big lock up there from somebody that smoked some sides. The car scuttled into the chicane at the Variante Alta once more. Lap 2 then out of 50 minutes of racing. And now they head downhill once again. Spinelli leading then. He was 1.7 seconds to the good on that opening lap. Through there goes Loris Spinelli then. About to put 2 laps in the book, and as he does so, the advantage that he's got is looking pretty huge already, isn't it? Because there Emanuele Zonzini goes through in second place. Yes, from 1.7 to 2.8 seconds, the margin has shot up. Third is Milan Tikens. Lewis Williamson then fourth, racing one of these cars for the first time, but acquitting himself pretty well. And then in fifth spot, it is the Spanish driver, Manuel Bejarano, and sixth, Stefan Tribodini. Whereas Dan Wells got to, he's eighth. And the one that benefited the most was the Bonaldi car of Pietro Perolini. 97 bounces its way over the curbs. The Lippert entry of Tim Muller. And one car that we don't seem to have had through at the end of the first lap is Pierre Felicioni, number 2. The Boots and Racing entry has gone missing somewhere, I fear. So that car possibly a non-starter even. So a question mark over that. But as the cars accelerate now through for the third time, Loris Spinelli is building the gap. Downhill they plunge. Right, Spinelli leading Zonzini by 2.8 seconds. And in the back of this little gaggle is number 44. That is the car of Magnus Gustafsson that he shares with Damian Klosek, the Polish driver. And Gustafsson tries one side and then the other. There's just about room on the inside, but the corner itself is so narrow. You kind of need to force the mistake out of somebody and pounce here on the exit of the Variante Alta. Race leader has just gone across the line. Loris Spinelli trying to build this gap. Pull clear all the time. Zonzini second. Third remains Tikens. Fourth is Williams. Loris Spinelli, the race leader, by 3.3 seconds. There he is. Max Weering, the Dutchman, that will take over that car. He's quick, not as quick perhaps as Loris Spinelli, but Loris trying to build up the advantage for him. You start, if you are a double driver entry, a race each, because you must do a qualifying session each, and you start the race you qualified for. Number 70 is under attack there. You saw Gerhard Watzinger. He's got Brendan Leach sharing that car. Brendan also doing GT World Challenge Europe duties this weekend, so trying to gain as much racing mileage as is possible. But Vatsinga loses a place there because through on the inside goes Gustafsson. So Magnus Gustafsson goes by, picks up a place, and in turn that's going to put him now into 21st spot. Again to the chicane they come, rattle over the curb, out of the Variante Alta. Don't go too wide on exit because that becomes a track limits offence and then you get yourself in trouble. Loris Spinelli, no surprise, given the pace that he's got, has done the fastest lap of the race. He's pulling clear of everybody else right now as there a challenge is made on the inside line, and through goes Amaury Bonduel, gains ground. So Bonduel goes by, picks up a place at the expense of Gabriel Ridoni. And the leaders come through once again. 4 laps in the book, lead margin 4 seconds now. Dan Wells has got himself up ahead of Piero Perolini now into 7th spot, and we've seen Bonduel go 15th. That's Gabriel Ridoni that he's just passed, with Mikael Gustafsson ahead of Gerhard Vatsinga further back in the order. So Loris Spinelli leads the way. Now, Emmanuel Zonzini running in 2nd place in number 78 will give way to the San Marino driver, which is Emmanuel Colombin. And Colombini, for the 2nd stint, less experienced than Max Weering, may therefore not be able to match his pace, but we shall see. Number 14 in the meantime, which is the Oregon car in the hands of Lorenzo Pegoraro, pushes on. So Pegoraro is currently in the Pro-Am class 9th overall, looking to gain ground at the expense of Perolini just up the road ahead of him. As yet, he can't do it. So the race leader, Loris Spinelli, comes thundering up towards the line, although on this current lap, Zonzini quicker than he did in the first sector, but Spinelli has just done the fastest lap of the race. And that, I suspect, may well stand. The margin is 4.6 seconds over Emmanuel Zonzini. In 3rd place, Milan Tikan still through, clear of Lewis Williamson. And this is a kind of usual Spinelli performance, especially if he's out front. He's electrifyingly quick in these cars. He's proved it time and time again, and there is just no stopping him. So right now, it's the pace of the second drivers that's going to affect the outcome of the race, really. In 3rd and 4th, then you've got Milan Tikans trying to fend off Lewis Williamson, and a little bit further down the order, the Oregon entry of Pegoraro looking for a way past Perolini. But right now, for 3rd place, Milan Tikans here, keeping Lewis Williamson at bay. Lewis, former Striker Racing GT driver. And he drops down now towards the Acqua Minerale, looking to restart a GT career, if you like, through Super Trofeo. Lots of people have done really well out of this and gone on to Lamborghini programs and to race in GT championships around the globe. When the Super Trofeo began, it really was the mainstay of the Wealthy Am, but it's changed, it's morphed over the years into very much a category for career racing drivers. And yes, the Am is still catered for, but the young guns very definitely have changed the way the championship operates. I mentioned a little while ago that we hadn't seen very much out of the Pierre Feligioni car. Well, it has just returned on a flatbed, looking damaged from presumably the first lap of the race. So that car has, I'm afraid to say, retired with not even a sector of the first race completed. Leaders go through. 9 more minutes before you need to worry about pit stops, but Loris Spinelli is looking all rather dominant up at the front of the field here, so he's not hanging about for anybody. Looking very strong indeed. Zonzini now 6 seconds back. Milan Tikan still runs 3rd, Lewis Williamson 4th, Bejarano is 5th, Stefan Tribodin is 6th, Dan Wells 7th. Loris Spinelli and Max Wearing's car, run by the Bernaldi team, is the leading pro entry. Zonzini running in 2nd spot, with Emmanuel Colombini leading in Pro-Am. The leading Am entry is Stefan Guerin, and he's 14th. And the leading Lamborghini Cup car is Hans Fabries, and that's 24th overall. Imola played host to the Lamborghini World Finals a few seasons back, so as Giorgio Sanna was saying before the race started, it's one of the home circuits for the Raging Bulls. Number 14 from the Oregon squad over the brow, that's Lorenzo Pigoraro. Number 6 out of the VS Racing stable, Stefan Tribodini. So Tribodini now drops down the hill, chasing after 89, which is Manuel Bejarano. And Tribodini looking good here for somebody that is new to the cars, sharing with Jean-Luc Daria that we saw in GT4 last year. Tribodini acquitting himself pretty nicely. So Loris Spinelli goes through, still well clear up front. Seven seconds, Spinelli is now clear. The rest of the traffic comes pouring over the line with these class battles taking up attention. But of course, with the pit stops and the shuffling of drivers, shuffling of pace, and the different speed you're going to get out of drivers, it could all be very different when we get to the second part of the race. So Spinelli, the race leader. 13, further back in the queue, is Stefan Guerin. 14th he is, but a class leader, as I was saying a moment ago. So Stefan Guerin leading his category, leading the AMS. So Spinelli the leader, Emanuele Zonzini still second. Zonzini, who has dabbled in Super Trofeo in the past. He was runner-up in the Pro-Am Cup back in 18, but a former GP3 Formula Renault racer, Emanuele Zonzini, as well as racing in the Italian and German GT championships. But with 36 minutes still to go, and the pit stop window soon to open, Loris Spinelli has just gone charging over the line. 8 laps in the book. The Bonaldi car, colourful in its colour scheme, goes through. Last year it was a Dutch team operating Max Wering's car, but now it's gone, if you like, to a familiar, a regular Super Trofeo team. Bonaldi has propped up this grid. It's been on this grid for many, many seasons, be it when it's been small grids or big grids. Bonaldi has been a mainstay and a stalwart team. Now we've just had, out of the pit lane, number 31, which is the car of Francois Grimm. And he's a soloist. It's too early for the mandatory pit stop, so it must have been a problem for Grimm. But he is back on track, but loses out as he does so to Kumar Prabhakaran, who will go past him. Number 9, accelerating past, is the Target Racing entry of Dimitri Gravatsova. Another of the Pro-Am entries, the Target Racing car. So Gravatsova makes the climb up the hill. Further back in the queue, number 28 is another one that's itching to gain ground, so we know he can do it. Amaury Bonduel worked his way up through the traffic a lap or two back, gaining places, trying to do it again if he can. 4.5 minutes for most then for the pit window to open. In some cases, like the leading car, it will go probably to the end of the window because you want to maximise the drive time available for your quickest driver. Others might come in early to get the slower driver out if that's the way that the driver order works. Yellow flag between turns 2 and 3, as you can see on the graphic. So an incident has happened somewhere out on the circuit. And now rescinded. So whatever happened has been sorted, and the cars go through with 9 laps done. 9 seconds the leading margin. Loris Spinelli, as expected, running away with this. And Max Weering is no slouch, so between them they should make for a very, very competitive combination. But one of the beauties of seeing Super Trofeo evolve over the year is to see how some of the newer drivers become quicker and quicker and quicker over the course of the season. Right now, you would argue that there is nobody looking likely to challenge the Spinelli-Wearing entry, but that could be very different come the end of the year as others become more competitive. Emmanuel Zonzini then, still clear in Pro-Am. In Am, Stefan Guerin, and Hans Fabre is still leading the Lamborghini Cup. 33 minutes of the race to go. Yellow flag now, turn 6. And that's the reason why, because we've had a spin from 87, that looks to be, which is the Lippert car of Jean-Francois Brunet. So that tries to get going again. But now as drivers are pushing and pushing and pushing, so more and more of them going off the racetrack. It's also in some cases perhaps because they're coming towards the end of a stint, they're getting a bit weary. But Loris Spinelli continues to lead. 9.8 seconds clear he is now of Emmanuel Zonzini. And then Milan Tikans hangs on to that third place, 89 there. Manuel Bergerano on the attack. Now, that's traffic, isn't it? Because Donovan Privitello is the driver ahead of him. So, number 8 is about to go a lap down. Donovan and Luciano Privitello, father and son. But for the moment, that car is sort of matching the pace of those around it. Therefore, they can't clear it. And it means that Borgerano is still being attacked by Tribodini, and he can't get through the back markers. Just wonder whether Privitello had a moment somewhere, because he's way out of sequence, but his lap times are good. So Donovan Privitello, son, and there in strife is 87. Now, we've seen that car have a spin. It's got going, but not very far. So Jean-Francois Bruno looks as though he's out of the race, but is that a breakage that's caused all of that rather than driver error having the spin? It looks as though the car is incapable of going much further anyway, so very disappointing, as now Privitello's car has got a right traffic jam behind it. Down to Rivazza, they drop once more, turn left, and of course because he's matching the pace of those around, I don't think there are any blue flags for him. Tribodini has been caught by Dan Wells, but yes, no blue flags being fluttered in the direction of Privitello to say, get out of the way of the quicker cars, because giving the impression virtually that he's in this battle. He's not. So through they come. Spinelli, Zonzini, Tikans the top 3. Williamson is 4th, and then there, 5th, 6th, 7th. Borgerano from Tribodini from Dan Wells. Wells on the back of Tribodini. Tribodini trying to attack Borgerano. That's the leader coming out of Tosa. So we climb up the hill once more, and Loris Spinelli, 10.8 seconds to the good, making this look oh so easy at the moment. Spinelli over the brow, more traffic that he has to think about now. So as he comes towards the end of his stint, with the pit stop window about to open, lap times might go up accordingly, just because he's got to wriggle his way through a number of the slower cars, and they're still limping around his Bruno, so clearly all is not well with that car. But there's going to come a point surely where the officials want it off the circuit. It is so slow, it's almost a hazard. It's at exactly the pace that would bring out the white flag, the slow moving vehicle flag. And it's barely got to the top of the brow there, as you see. So, 78th, that's the second place car, Emmanuel Zonzini. Behind, you've got Milan Tikans and Lewis Williamson. So there's a decent battle going on for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. But Loris Spinelli is away and gone, isn't he, with this monster advantage. He stays out for yet another lap. Zonzini through. The pit window is open, as you see. And now people are starting to take advantage of that. So in has come Kumar Prabhakaran, the Malaysian driver. He's done much of his racing in Europe for the last couple of seasons for obvious reasons, with the travel dramas going back and forth. He's come to sort of reside in Europe. Plus, there's barely been any Asian motorsport to speak of whatsoever, but hopefully that's going to restart in July. Super Trofeo Asia, one hopes, will continue to be as strong as it was before the pandemic. Now, Stefan Tribodini has come in, so too has Bronek Formanek, so has Dimitri Gravatsova. That now means that Manuel Borgerano is running in 5th, but he's got Dan Wells behind him, so Tribodini has pitted. That gives Dan Wells a chance to challenge. And the pro-sim backed car comes towards Tosa now. Through the left-hander, up the hill it will climb. Oscar Lee will take that car over for the second stint, whereas Manuel Borgerano, the Spanish driver, will go solo. So again, in theory, that car can run at this pace all the way through the race. To the inside line there goes number 91, and that is through the traffic, the Bernaldi car in the hands of Pietro Perolini. Perolini going nicely here, learning about Super Trofeo all the time. So the pit stops, you have to be at rest for 60 seconds if you are a two-driver entry, 63 seconds if you're on your own, just to take some of the advantage away from the solo drivers that will know the state of the car and, of course, the circuit. So through there goes Loris Spinelli. Race leader goes by. More pit stops cycle through then. Number 4, Claude-Yves Gosselin's car. And Claude-Yves Gosselin gets out, Marc Rostin gets in. Claude-Yves Gosselin, Formula 3000 racer in the 1990s and mainstay of GT-style categories ever since, pretty much. So more and more of the pit stops cycle through, including the Stéphane Tribodini, now Jean-Luc Daria car that has just rejoined. 27 bouncing over the curb. Lewis Williamson goes way out wide at Tosa. He's going to lose it. He does lose it. Around comes the back and he spins towards the corner. So Lewis Williamson with a big, big lose off the road. We've seen people run wide coming out of the Villeneuve chicane, but that was quite a spin for Lewis Williamson. He's got it going again, but the number 27 Oregon car loses a big, big chunk of time that Massimo Siglia will have to try to recoup when he gets behind the wheel. Out of the chicane, they bounce once again. So the pressure is off Milan Tikans to an extent with the spin for Lewis Williamson. No pressure at all on Loris Spinelli. He's just, as quickly as he can, ticking off laps here. And another one is about to go in the book. So we've got 6 minutes and a bit of the pit window to go. So he's got time for another 2-3 laps. There in second place going through is Emanuele Zonzini. Pit open says the sign. Teams will be coordinating their pit stops if they're running multiple cars. They don't necessarily want everybody in all at once, but 10 minutes is a narrow window. Milan Tikans are just pitted from third place, so as long as he doesn't come in, Lewis Williamson will buy back third spot. Yes, he does. Up to fourth goes Manuel Borgerano, and Dan Wells will now become fifth. In sixth place, it's going to be Pietro Perolini, and then for seventh place will become the Oregon car in the hands of Lorenzo Pegoraro. So Loris Spinelli's lead over 12 seconds now from Emanuele Zonzini, whose best lap is about 6/10 slower. But Spinelli is a champion. He's probably the most experienced, certainly the front runners of these cars, or this type of car. I know it's a new model for this year, but using his experience of the original model, Spinelli knows what he's doing, and nobody else in terms of Lamborghini experience in that first half of the grid really can hold a candle to him. So Spinelli maximising all of the strengths that he's got here. There he is up the curb, getting through the traffic. Winner in Europe, winner in North America, and comes towards the timing line once again, goes through, and another lap ticked off. So that now puts 15 of them in the book. So Spinelli stays out for at least one more lap. Now what about Zonzini? He goes through as well. Lewis Williamson will be next, albeit a bit distant now in third place after his spin. Now Milan Tikans, that was in that leading group early on, has just rejoined the race, or at least the car has, because now it is going to be given over to Marzio Moretti. Challenge made there, and big, big challenge as well by Zonzini to get through the traffic. Does not want to be being held up. Clears the back marker, goes through. That's what the pit lane looks like at the moment, with a number of cars cycling through the mandatory stops. There's not much the team can do other than really help with the driver change, look at tyre pressures, but the most important thing of all is the pit stop timing. Don't release the car too soon, and there, being forced out wide, the Bonaldi entry back onto the circuit goes. Is that Spinelli? No, it's the sister car, 91. So in strife is Pietro Perolini. Got forced out wide with a hip and shoulder coming out of the Villeneuve chicane towards the run to Tosa. So Perolini loses time. Spinelli loses nothing at all. He's way clear in the lead. 13.8 seconds now. Comes down through Rivazza, flings the car into the corner. Even given the size of the lead, he is pushing, pushing, pushing. He wants to give his co-driver Max Weering the biggest possible lead. In he comes then, with just under 3 minutes of the window remaining. Great effort there by Spinelli. He's done the fastest lap of the race. In he comes. So Zonzini will inherit the race lead. Max Weering is about to get on board number 61. More and more of the teams getting ready. So the pit stops pretty much done by most, but we've got a handful to go, including Emanuele Zonzini, who really is maximising this because he's got a minute and a half to get back to the pit lane. He'll do it, but it's going to be right on the limit. And he's not the only one, because also Lewis Williamson, I think Dan Wells are staying out until the bitter end, as it were. Right, away goes Max Weering. In has come the other Bonaldi car for Perolini to hand over now to Paolo Bilieri. So the driver change takes place there. And what that also should mean, of course, is that the pit lane is pretty clear when the last couple of cars arrive. Number 78, Emanuele Zonzini, the race leader. Back on track then is Weering. Into the pit lane comes Zonzini to give way to Emanuele Colombini. So a good stint that by Zonzini. Yes, he was unable to live with Spinelli, I'll grant you, but he's done a good stint nonetheless, keeping everybody else behind him. And now it's going to be up to his co-driver, Emanuele Colombini, to see what he can do about Max Weering. Weering has more Lamborghini experience, but let's see how he fares against Colombini. So 61 was Loris Spinelli, now Max Weering, there it is. So that car should take its lead back on this next lap through. There is Emanuele Zonzini's car. Emanuele Colombini takes it over. More and more leaving the pit lane. So Lewis Williamson has been in to give way to Massimo Ciglia. Zonzini I've mentioned. Dan Wells in for Oscar Lee. So that's the last of the drivers that hadn't stopped serving the mandatory pit stops. Oscar Lee on board, number 51. 78 then, with now Emanuele Colombini behind the wheel. That's going to get ready to go as soon as they've done their 60 seconds at rest. Away the car goes now. Up towards the line comes Max Weering. So this now should put that car back into the lead of the race, with the Colombini entry yet to go. So through goes Weering. The last few exit the pit lane, including Daniel Waszinski. Number 12, giving way now to Regis Rego de Serres. So final shuffle of the order as the last pit stops are completed. And at the end of this next lap, we'll have a truer idea of the order, but I think it's safe to say that Max Weering's car will be back in front. There it is, going through Tosa. So Wearing for Bonaldi. It was the Johan Kral team last year, but here he is switching to Bonaldi, championship experts. Down to the Acqua Minerale comes Max Wearing, of course, for the second driver. They've got to learn about the car, feel comfortable in it straight away, instantly try and get a feel for what the circuit is like. There, number 78, coming out of Pirotello, is Emanuele Colombini. So that's going to be in second place now, the VS Racing, Vincenzo Sospiri Racing entry. VS, a team that operates the cars both in Europe and Asia. Runs cars in Italian GT, and this year as well the GT World Challenge Europe to boot. So a team growing all the time, but largely around Lamborghini products. So Colombini, with traffic up the road, comes through Rivazza, but the race leader, Max Wearing, is long gone, benefiting from a very good first stint by Loris Spinelli, plus his own ability and experience of the cars. The gap's likely to be about 20 seconds, I would have thought. Through comes then now for second place Colombini, 18.4, not far off the 20. So Emanuele Colombini has got a lot of work to do. Now, his last lap was from the pits. This is the first proper flying lap that he's going to be able to do. A Max Wearing lap is a 1:43, whereas Spinelli's was a high 1:40 as the absolute best of that car. In third place now, Marzio Moretti. Fourth place, number 27, the Oregon car of Massimo Ciglia. In fifth is Oscar Lee, and sixth, Jean-Luc Daria, having taken over from Tribodini. And this is for second place, and Moretti does it on the inside line. So Marzio Moretti goes through, up in the second spot. And that suddenly becomes of big interest, doesn't it? Because if he's got that pace straight away, Marzio Moretti might be able to do something about bringing down the gap to the race leader, traffic allowing. Let's see. So he pushes on. Down towards the Acqua Minerale once more. And Moretti, he's not wasting time through the traffic either, carving his way through on the inside there. So Max Wearing leads the way. We've got 16 minutes to go as you look at number 31. Further back in the pack, that is the Boutsen racing car of Francois Grimm that pitted very early with a problem, then had to do its mandatory stop, so it's quite a long way back as a consequence of that. So Max Wearing has done 19 laps, he's gone by, and then for second place, Marzio Moretti doing the chasing now, the 20-year-old Italian. He's driven in karts to begin with, but last year in Carrera Cup Italy, in which he was fifth. He spent a couple of years racing Porsches before coming to race Lamborghinis, but he's also had outings in LMP3 and in the Italian Formula 4 Championship. So Marzio Moretti, pretty versatile and able to make that jump successfully, it seems, from Porsches to Lamborghinis, different type of GT car. We've got one being investigated for speeding in the pit lane. It is the Daniel Waszyński Regis Regio car. As there, hustling on, is Jean-Luc Daria, currently in sixth place, closing onto the back of Oscar Lee. They're in different classes. It's a Pro Cup car for Daria. It's a Pro-Am entry for Oscar Lee, but even so, for fifth overall, it could yet change. The classes, the AM category still being led by Stefan Guerin, but Andrzej Lewandowski not that far behind him now. So Lewandowski, who again has been hugely successful in his Lamborghini career, is closing. And in the Lamborghini Cup, it is Hans Fabry ahead of Gerard van der Horst, ahead of now Luciano Privitelli. That's the order in the Lamborghini Cup. 14 minutes to go. Now the lead gap is about to be offered up because Max Wearing has gone through. His last lap was a 42.4. But I suspect the traffic is rather going against Marzio Moretti. And unless we were to get a safety car period, can't see him really closing on the race leader. He's gone through, has he? Just 23.4 seconds. Yes, he's losing time, actually. So despite how good he was getting into second place, he's not being able to catch the race leader. Colombini is still third, Massimo Ciglia is fourth, Oscar Lee is fifth, Daria, then Bejarano, Biglieri, Josef Saruba, and then to round out the top 10 now in the target racing car is Milan Petelet, the French driver. Do we have one off the road up at the Tamburello? I thought I'd just seen a car stranded by the side of the circuit there, but conceivably we do, as now Jean-Luc Daria makes his move against Oscar Lee and goes through on the inside, then coming down to the Villeneuve chicane. We do have a car off the road because now there's a yellow flag out up at turn 2, so it's round the Tamburello approach. 51 goes through, so Oscar Lee is now down one spot behind Jean-Luc Daria. So over the brow into the Piratella they come once more, lap 21, and the lead gap, by the look of it, is going to increase because another half a second was pulled out in the first sector. So there, going up the hill, is number 13. This is the AM leader, Stéphane Guérin. So the GT4 convert. We're going to go full course yellow in 20 seconds. So presumably for this incident up at Tamburello, a full course yellow is required. And there's a 20-second notification, then a 10-second notification. And as soon as that's done, now we go full course yellow and everybody has to slow right down on the instruction of the race director. Most people, I think, have got the message. So in theory, this shouldn't do a great deal to the gaps because everybody should have slowed at the same time and everybody should be doing the same delta speed. But that can all be policed to make sure. So full course yellow slows the pace. It means that instantly a problem can be addressed and marshals can go and attend to it. If it's a long full course yellow period, it might be that the race ends up with a safety car just so the cars can go at a quicker speed for a lap or so, and it's a safer release. And if that happens, then the gaps would come down, of course. So yellow flags all around the circuit. Full course yellow boards are there. The equivalent of a virtual safety car, if you like. So everybody respectful of that. So the race order remains Max Wearing now by very nearly 32 seconds ahead of Emanuele Colombini. So the one that we have lost looks like being Marzio Moretti because he has not come through. Yes, so as the safety car is going out onto the circuit, Marzio Moretti, I fear, is the one that we have lost up at Tamburello. So big shame that, having got himself into second place. Max Wearing leads from Colombini, and that's why it's a big gap of 32 seconds, because effectively it was the first to third cars. Now third then is Massimo Ciglia, fourth is Jean-Luc Daria, number 6, fifth is Manuel Bejarano, and sixth is Oscar Lee. We'd seen them just trade places before we got to this full course yellow period. So the safety car is on the circuit. We've not yet gone safety car conditions, but it's there and circulates before it finds the race leader, and then we'll go to the safety car process. So 9.5 minutes to go, and everybody now having to form up with the possibility of the safety car getting the race to an end, depending on how long it would take to sort out the incident over at Tamburello. So Emanuele Colombini in second spot, comes down the hill, got his second place back, having been overtaken, but he's, if you like, been gifted it once more. And there, in third place, Massimo Ciglia, who's taken over from Lewis Williamson. Now, those two are first and second within Pro-Am, so that battle should carry on to the very end of this. Cars making their way up towards the timing line, but 8.5 minutes of the race remain, and one or two of the teams there talking about slowing down. There's a drive-through penalty for number 12 you can see on the board. It's not on the timing screen, but it's on the board, and number 12 is the entry of Daniel Wyszynski and Regis de Sebes. So still shown as Wyszynski at the wheel of that car, but that I have a suspicion was being looked at for pit lane speeding a little earlier. Right, there is the safety car. So we now are, as you can see, under safety car procedure, which means that all the gaps come down because everybody now will close right up. Loris Spinelli watches on from the pit lane, having done that fastest lap of the race in that great stint. Now, the safety car can go faster than the regulation speed for a full course yellow period. So the pace starts to quicken, but when will the safety car come back in? We shall find out. First of all, you've got to get everybody in a line, really. But the way that it's operated, with having the safety car on the circuit in readiness, rather than having to scramble it and find the leader, seems to work a lot better than it does in other instances. So you can slow the cars, you can have the safety car out there, it can overtake the race cars given its speed, and then easily find the race leader rather than try and release it at exactly the right moment and risk missing the leading car. So down through Acqua Minerale they turn, and as I say, Marzio Moretti's car has not come by, so that must be the one that we have lost. Daniel Wyszynski's drive-through yet to be served as well. So through they turn, 6 minutes to go, but we await news as to when the safety car might be coming in. Of course, when the lights go out, that's the indication to the drivers that it will peel in at the end of this lap. But we need to have a quick look at the safety car. We don't have it on the message line of the screen to say that it's coming in this time. But this is going to be the fight. It's going to be for the Pro-Am win. Colombini versus Ciglia, the two of them together. Right, well, the safety car's gone by, so at least one more lap to be done. Through it turns. And Max Weering, I'm not sure he's under much threat in real terms, but even if he were, he's managed to get a bit of traffic between himself and the second and third place cars, but they are going to be rather busier, battling for their own class positions. So that kind of gets him off the hook to an extent. So 5 minutes remain. Safety car is in at the end of this lap. So what's that going to give us? About 2 racing laps, potentially? So the race order, remember, Max Weering leads, up into second place again there, Emanuele Colombini. There, third, Massimo Ciglia. That's the fight for Pro-Am leadership. Fourth, the white VS Racing car in the background of Jean-Luc Daria. Fifth, the blue and white FFF Racing Team entry of Oscar Lee. That's in turn third in Pro-Am. And then sixth is number 89, the grey-nosed car of Manuel Bejarano. 4.5 minutes on the clock. Flying lap is 1 minute 40.41. So 2 more laps I would offer you when we get things back underway. And actually the field is remarkably strung out, because as you can see cars here heading down towards Ravazza, there's still another wave that's on its way down to Tamburello. So we go green this time, and the second half, if you like, we've got a lot of catching up to do. However, safety car will peel in and we go back racing. So Max Weering release can accelerate away once more. Comes up towards the line. There he is, absolutely on his own. And through the traffic come the rest. So for second place, Colombini for third, Massimo Ciglia half a second between the two as they start the lap then. There's time for two more. Up towards Tamburello they go then, which is the scene of the incident that interrupted the race. Up the curve, gets squeezed. Ciglia, he tried to get alongside Colombini, ran out of room, ran out of road. And the danger of that is that you then compromise yourself and lose a little bit of ground, lose momentum as well. And you could then be attacked by the car behind on the run down towards the Villeneuve chicane. 3 minutes and a bit still to go. And somebody's off, more than one, possibly through the gravel. Who we lost out of all of that? 72 is one of them. So that's Kumar Prabhakaran getting it wrong, going off the racetrack. The pit window is under investigation, according to the timing screen. Now, did that shuffle the order greatly? Kumar Prabhakaran was kind of a long way down the order anyway. But the question mark is to whether or not it got in the way of the Pro-Am situation. And a drive-through for Massimo Ciglia. I think he's just got past Colombini, but he's copped a drive-through for a pit stop infringement. So number 27, Massimo Ciglia's Oregon car, has to serve a drive-through, and that is very bad news indeed, because it's going to throw them right down the order. It's going to be very good news for Oscar Lee. So as the cars then accelerate out of the Variante Alta, they're number 6 of Jean-Luc Daria. That's another one that's going to benefit, I think. But I think in all of the dramas triggered by Kumar Prabhakaran, it does look as though Massimo Ciglia got past Colombini, but little good will it do him, because, as I say, 27 then, the Oregon car has a drive-through penalty for a pit stop infringement. There he is. So the race leader, Max Weering, has gone by. Drive-through board there is for number 12. That's been there for a while, but 27 is on the screen now. Second on the road, there he is, but needing to serve a drive-through, or it'll be a time penalty put on post-race. In third is Colombini then, but the order on the road is not how it's going to finish with this drive-through, this Damocletian drive-through hanging over Massimo Ciglia. Fourth on the road is Jean-Luc Daria ahead of Oscar Lee. And in the classes, Stéphane Guérin still ahead in AM, as there, through on the inside goes Jean-Luc Daria. Does that put him ahead of Colombini? It does. So Jean-Luc Daria goes third on the road, which should become second when you apply the post-race penalty to this car, because there'll be the flag this time, I suspect. So as far as Massimo Ciglia is concerned, he just does not have time to serve it. Number 6 goes through then. So Jean-Luc Daria inching up the order all the time. He had a rather frustrating season in European GT4 last year, did Jean-Luc Daria. We didn't see the best of him, but he's going nicely here. And another one to watch, I think, as the season progresses. Oscar Lee under attack now as well from Manuel Bejarano. He could afford to let him go because he's set to inherit second in the Pro-Am contest anyway. But Oscar wants to hang on to the place if he can. So 38 seconds on the clock. And are we going to squeeze another lap out of this? There's another wave of cars just coming over the timing line, but the race leader might be able to get one more done within half a minute. So Max Weering it is, leading the way, having taken over from Loris Spinelli after that mighty effort. And yeah, he does get one more lap out of the race. So Max Weering goes through, and second on the road, Massimo Ciglia. But he's not served the drive-through. And they're bouncing over the curb. Ciglia getting himself in traffic. Raf Mikrut's car it is, just up the road ahead there. So there is the GT3 Poland car. There is Ciglia, and now he has got Jean-Luc Daria right on his tail. So Daria is a man on a mission. He might even get the place on pure pace, never mind inheriting it. There are others being given time penalties, and it's number 70. Just keeping one eye on Daria to see whether he can make the move. Number 70 is the Gerhard Batzinger Brendan Leach car, and it's a 1.674 second penalty to be added. It's going to be a win for Max Weering, but what about second, what about third? There is Weering, clear up front. But Massimo Ciglia versus Jean-Luc Daria. As I say, Daria should inherit it anyway because of the drive-through that's got to be applied to Massimo Ciglia's Oregon car, but I think Daria wants to do it on pure pace anyway on the road. So to the timing line now, counts number 61, Max Weering comes by. checkered flag is waved, and Max Wearing and Loris Spinelli win the opening round of Lamborghini Super Trofeo Europe. A very, very good drive indeed by the pair of them, and a somewhat dominant performance in the end. So a win for Wearing and Spinelli. Now, what about second? Massimo Ciglia was ahead, but I think Jean-Luc Darrier has found a way past him. So yes, the VS Racing car is going to come through second. Third will be Colombini and Zonzini. Bergerano is fourth. Oscali is fifth. I'm not entirely sure Massimo Ciglia has crossed the line yet. He served the drive-through, that's why. Rather than take the flag on the road, he's come in on the last lap to serve the drive-through penalty. So Massimo Ciglia in the pits. But if he hasn't got as far as the timing line, he may not be allowed down the pit lane. He might not be classified as a finisher. So the Oregon car has a question mark over it. As I say, it is in the pits, shown as being in the pits. But now we need to see Josef Zaruba come through and see whether he is classified 6th or 7th, whether he moves up at the expense of Ciglia, which will tell us whether he actually got to the timing line or not. I think he has. I think Ciglia is going to be classified 6th, but we'll confirm. Well done, Loris Spinelli and Max Wearing, driving back to Parc Fermé offline, getting some pickup on the tyres just to help with the weight and help with the ride height. And Josef Zaruba 7th. So Ciglia, by doing his drive-through right at the very end, taking 6th spot. Rest of the cars home, and in the end the AM contest is resolved right at the very end in favour not of Stefan Guerin but of Gabriel Rindoni, who managed to sneak through that safety car period, helping in a sense by bringing him back into the mix, and then he was able to mount an assault on the restart of the race. But a very, very good drive indeed by then the combination of Loris Spinelli and Max Wearing. They had a win together at the Nürburgring. Did they have 2 at the Nürburgring last year? They certainly had 1 at Misano at the World Final weekend, and another one now together to kick off season 2022. So a job well done. Let's look at the results of that race, with honours going the way of Max Wearing and Loris Spinelli. Jean-Luc Darrier and Stefan Tribodini taking seconds, the best of the newcomers, if you like. Third to Emanuele Colombini and Emanuele Zonzini, and then fourth to Manuel Bergerano. Dan Wells and Oscali 5th, ahead of Massimo Ciglia and Lewis Williamson. Bronek Formanek and Josef Zaruba 7th, from Milan Petilet and Dimitri Gravatsova in 8th spot. Pro winning to Max Wearing and Loris Spinelli. Pro-Am honours to Emanuele Zonzini, Emanuele Colombini. The winning Am, Gabriel Rindoni, who was 13th, and the winning Lamborghini Cup entry, Hans Fabry, ahead of Gerard van der Horst and the Privitellios. Gabriel Rindoni winning the AM contest ahead of Stefan Guerin and Holger Harmsen. Good to see him on the podium. With the Pro-Am battle won by Colombini and Zonzini, Oscali and Dan Wells 2nd, and in the end, Ciglia and Williamson 3rd. And in Pro, Wearing and Spinelli the winners, from Darrier and Tribodini, and then Manuel Bergerano finishing in 3rd. So the drivers in a moment will make their way to the presentation area, and Loris Spinelli and Max Wearing victorious.
Standing by, Mike.
So very happy Max Wearing and Loris Spinelli, who, if he does the whole season with Max, rather than just being brought in as a ringer, as you might say, like last year, to help him win the championship, they will be very formidable together over the year. But Jean-Luc Darrier's pace in that second stint, very, very impressive. So somebody else to keep an eye to over the course of the season. So drivers now being brought forward, winning drivers out of the 4 categories, forgive me, and then there'll be the podium for them as well. It's a real GT fans' dream weekend, this, with Super Trofeo cars, with GT4, GT3, GT2 races as well. And there is the winning car, the Bonaldi entry of Loris Spinelli and Max Wearing. Helmets off. And Jean-Luc Darrier and Stefan Tribodini taking that second place. Right, let's hear then from Max Waring and Loris Spinelli, race winners, and they're with Gemma.
Loris, Max, congratulations. A fantastic drive, dominant. Loris, you started?
Yeah, so great start of the season with a pole position and victory. The car was really strong. I enjoyed a lot during my stint, and congrats to Max to finish the job. Thanks to the team Bonaldi, thanks to all the guys, and thank you. Ciao, Noah.
Max, you looked very, very happy as you got out of the car.
Yeah, I'm quite happy. Loris did a great stint for sure, and yeah, because of him I didn't have any traffic and I can do my job. So I finished the race with, yeah, I think a great race pace, so I'm quite happy.
A great way to start the season, hey?
Yeah, for sure, but way more to come.
There is indeed. Well done once again.
Thank you.
So, quick look at the winning car, and Max Waring and Loris Spinelli charging up towards the timing line in the end to win by 17.9 seconds. 17.9 seconds, and bear in mind that the safety car had, to an extent, helped to reduce some of those gaps. So the winning drivers then to head to the podium in a moment. And race 2 tomorrow. Again, the Super Trofeo runs with the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe for the bulk of the season, and then has its standalone Lamborghini weekend where it's joined by the American and Asian championships. And that's going to be at Portimao in November. So the opening round of the championship began with Loris Spinelli charging away from pole position, with the car of Milan Tikans slotting in behind, but it wasn't long before Tikans dropped down the order. Anthony Borger also making a decent start, trying to work his way through the traffic. A challenge being made on the inside by Manuel Zonzini, who was soon up to second spot. But there was nothing anybody could do about Loris Spinelli, who was straight away able to build a very comfortable advantage over the opposition. A good battles raged on up and down the field, Gerhard Batzinger being one of the drivers involved in a typical Lamborghini squabble with Tim Muller, who would give the car over to Jochen Krebs for the second stint aboard 28. Amaury Bonduel, the French driver looking to gain places, Daniel Bashinsky being lapped as he was in his own battle, but so too was Manuel Bajarano. As the pit window opened, Loris Spinelli left it pretty late before he came in to give way to his co-driver Max Waring. Into the pit lane a lap later came Emanuele Zonzini to give way to Emanuele Colombini, and others found exactly how little grip there was over the curb. After the stops, Marzio Moretti into 54, replacing Milan Tikans very quick, straight away able to work his way up into second place. But as other fights raged on the circuit, Jean-Luc Daria being amongst those working his way through the order, we had an incident involving Moretti that brought out the safety car, and it meant that on the restart of the race, the battle was rejoined between Colombini, Ciglia and Daria, who was soon hunting them down. Massimo Ciglia picked up a drive-through penalty, which he served right at the end, and through for the race win came Loris Spinelli and Max Waring to score honours in the opening race of Lamborghini Super Trofeo 2022. In the Imola sunshine, drivers very shortly will make their way up to the podium, where Ruben Moore, the Chief Technical Officer of Automobili Lamborghini, awaits, and the trophies for the top 3 in each of the categories. Lamborghini also looking for perhaps a win in GT World Challenge Europe tomorrow, because the Emil Frey Racing team, with another champion from seasons past of Super Trofeo, Giacomo Altaway, amongst the driving force, looking very strong indeed. So there's not just the one-mate races to occupy Lamborghini fans here, as the GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup opener as well. So now the drivers set to be called forward. And out first come Emanuele Zonzini and Emanuele Colombini, having taken third place. For second place, this is overall rather than in the classes for the moment, Stefan Tribodini and Jean-Luc Daria. And then for the top step, it is going to be Loris Spinelli and Max Weering as the outright race winners. So for Loris Spinelli and Max Weering, and for the Bonaldi Motorsport team, the Italian national anthem plays. And the top three overall then on the podium. So now the trophies can be presented. So Stefan Winkelmann is going to make the presentations for at least the first podium. The Chief Executive Officer of Lamborghini. And he presents to the top three teams. Lamborghini always has these splendid trophies. Very, very happy Emanuele Zonzini, Emanuele Colombini. But they're Loris Spinelli and Max Weering with the gold trophies as the race winners. And photographs being taken. Now, Pirelli trophies that go to the race winners presented. So congratulations to our winners. Now they all huddle together for the group photographs, but as I was saying, a combination that was formed at the end of last season, so that Max Weering, who'd been a solo driver really for the bulk of the season, would have a better chance of winning the championship. In the end, it didn't work out, but not for the want of trying. But it's a partnership that was a successful one and has continued into this season. So champagne sprayed. It's very nice, isn't it, to see podiums without masks and without people having to be yards apart. People can step forward and present a trophy like the old days. Makes podiums a bit slower, because in the old days of a driver collecting a trophy and standing on a podium, things rattle through, but the whole ceremony, it's nice to have it back. So the podiums cycle through with pros, pro-ams, the AMs and the Lamborghini Cup drivers. And of course there's a second race for the Lamborghini Super Trofeo entrance tomorrow here at Imola. So as ever, lots of track time. They have 2 free practice sessions, then the 2 split qualifying parts, and then the 2 races for them as well. Right, onto the podium come the next drivers. And it is Massimo Ciglia and Lewis Williamson as third in Pro-Am. Then Oscar Lee and Dan Wells step forward. And for the top step, it is going to be Emanuele Zonzini and Emanuele Colombini who will step forward for a second time, a second visit to the podium. So well done to their fellow drivers. And now for the VS Racing team, the national anthem of the San Marino drivers who take a Pro-Am class win. So for Emanuele Zonzini and Emanuele Colombini, the trophies to be presented. A class win in Pro-Am, and they're Josef Zaruba and Bronek Formanek. And yet more silverware to the collection. Oscar Lee, with Dan Wells' tutelage, gets faster and faster all the time. And the Hong Kong-based driver who was saying at the end of last season when he was packing up to leave Misano after the World Finals, it'll be worth a 2 weeks quarantine when I get home because I've had a good weekend of racing, but hopefully travel might get a bit easier. But good to have Oscar Lee back in European racing. Good to have Dan Wells back in Europe as well, because he'd fallen off the radar a little bit after he went to China and won the Formula Pilota Championship. But the San Marino drivers, Emanuele Colombini, Emanuele Zonzini, celebrate a class win. And no doubt there's going to be more to come, but certainly Pro-Am as a class looks very, very competitive indeed. And Oscar Lee, after a right old soaking, courtesy of Dan Wells, is all smiles on the podium. Probably all smelly on the podium as well. I mean, it'll reek of champagne, but I don't suspect he cares. And these are scenes that we haven't had for a long, long time with the restrictions on distancing on podiums. So the Pro-Am drivers get together slightly ad hoc for one last photograph. And then they will turn their attentions to getting the overalls dry clean and getting themselves set for race 2 for tomorrow, where the keen AMs will talk to their pro and look at some data and try and find a bit more time in themselves for race 2. So congratulations not only to the class winners that we have already seen, but also to Hans Fabry and to Gabriele Rindoni as our other class winners. And we'll see you tomorrow for race 2. For now, from Imola, from David Addison, it's goodbye.